The room you arrive in becomes the new loaded room, with the old active room getting deleted from the stack, and the real power for this glitch comes from how transitions work while room duping. Every room has transitions that lead to other rooms, and all of them are named based on where they are located. So a single transition at the top of a room is called top 1, with 2 transitions on the right of the room being called right 1, right 2, and so on. But when you enter a transition, the game doesn't look at where you entered on that screen. Instead, it looks at where you would load on the screen connected to that transition. So a right 1 transition would lead to a left 1 on the connected room, and that left 1 transition is where the game looks at. However, when a room dupe is active, the game doesn't look at the room adjacent to the loaded room when it's figuring out where to load you during a transition. Instead, it looks at the active room. So let's say these are your loaded and active rooms and you exit through left 1 in the loaded room. The game would then load you into right 1 on the active room and change the rooms in the stack accordingly. You might be wondering what happens if there isn't a matching transition to load you at in the active room. In that case, the game would look at the room above the active room on the list, which is the loaded room, so you'd get the normal transition if it fails to find one in the active room. So, once speedrunners start the game, they quit out, then set up main menu storage so that when they enter the new file, they're already in a room dupe, which you can tell by the colors of the room being slightly different than normal. Then, they abuse the room dupe to quickly navigate the map. They pick up some rosaries early on as they're required later as currency, and an unfortunate side effect of room duping is that a lot of what's happening on screen takes place completely blind or obscured. But world record holder Mimi was kind enough to provide a special run where you can see what's going on. The first 2 minutes of the run are spent getting to Bone Bottom because we need to access a bench in Shellwood for a glitch we're going to do later. So, by room duping, then doing a very specific movement pattern, we arrive at Bone Bottom.
Chat being
but
well
there's
fed.
a problem. The path we need to take is above us, and there's
Ranking
no way of
every
getting there.
Silksong boss.
So, we're going to do another room dupe while the screen is
It was
completely
one of the
black.
videos.
Since our loaded room has 2 right side loads,
But I
our
wowed.
active room doesn't have the load we need to
Would
arrive on
watch.
top, we're going to enter a house in
Delay.
Bone Bottom to change our room stack until we get a load that will take us to the upper right. Once there, we'll need to break a rosary to get more beads, while being careful not to knock any into the pit. As if we
Everyone
miss a
should
single
check
one,
out my
the run will be
stream.
over. Now, you might be
I thought you
wondering
didn't
how long it
stream.
takes the No Major Glitches
Are you streaming
speedrun to
now?
get to Bone Bottom, and the answer is 14 minutes, as they need to fight 3 bosses and take a more intended route before dropping in from the top, so we're already 12 minutes ahead in terms of progression. And next, we're going to do one of the hardest
Take
skips
all
in the
Alex
game,
viewers.
Phasia
You should.
Skip.
That's my
Here's
trick.
what Phasia Skip
I
looks
took all
like.
of Unalike's viewers. I took all of Super Nintendo's viewers. Even his mod.
You
Look,
couldn't
no
see
one's in
anything?
here.
Neither can the player, but with special footage, we're able to see what's going on. On the other side of the Phasia
Welcome
enemy,
in.
there's a ledge you can't reach with a normal
Neither
jump. But if you jump
on
into the Phasia's AoE attack at
Smiley.
the right angle, the knockback from the attack will give
Hey,
you the height
hey.
and momentum you need to
Trust
cross
the
the
man.
gap.
Trust in
So you
that.
might be thinking, how do runners do this while the screen is black? If you're
I have
familiar with
heaps of
blindfolded
bubbles.
runs,
That's a
audio
lot of
feedback
bubbles.
and buffered movement where you count out beats are common methods for setups. And SavvyNov found a setup for Phasia Skip that does just that. By listening to Hornet's footsteps, you'll get a good idea of where you are. Then, by jumping, waiting, and jumping again, you'll be aligned for Phasia's attack and make the jump. There is another route, however, where instead of going to
now
the
we're listening
Phasia,
for
you drop
footsteps?
down and go to the Bell Shrine. Then room dupe to get where we're going, but this route is slower than using Phasia Skip because it involves watching animations and setting up a second room dupe. So you might think, okay, if Phasia Skip is faster, why even bother going with the Bell Shrine route? And that's because if you do Phasia Skip, you need to complete the 2 hardest rooms
How do
in the
people
run.
figure this out?
After picking up the Cling Grip skill and doing another dupe transition, we arrive at a room with
Sometimes
a pit
by
that's
accident.
completely obscured. Coincidentally, an
Trial and error.
NPC starts dialogue that stops you from falling in the pit. But after that, you need to travel a large distance
I've
and
never
climb
seen
up a
Lace there.
specific spot with only audio feedback to guide you. By using down attacks, you can get to the approximate location.
I
Then,
think they
by
may look
listening
into
to
the
type
code
of
most
sound coming from
times.
Hornet's footsteps, you can narrow down your position. The goal is to get on top of this raised platform, which you'll know because it's the only spot with metallic sounding footsteps, and once on it, you ascend up to the next difficult section. This may look easy with the lights turned on, but the ledges are spaced just enough that only precise jumps, guided by audio feedback and knowing the spacing of your actions, will see you through successfully when the screen is black. After those difficult rooms, we come to what is perhaps the most broken glitch in the game.
I just played
and it's
Sherma
also
for
the
20
reason
minutes
we
on
needed to
stream and
collect 60
blasting
beads.
mines.
Welcome in,
This
Satire
bench
Satyr.
in Shellwood
Hey,
Room
Earth.
11. This may look like
Here.
an ordinary bench, because it is, but unlocking this bench is the most important part of the run, because what we're going to do next is completely insane. First, we're going to intentionally die to the thorn hazard on the left, and the reason for this is because of how this particular death is handled while a room dupe is active. Recall that when the game needs to load you somewhere in a room dupe, it looks at the active room rather than the loaded room. Well, we just died, so the game needs to load us somewhere, and since we just activated and used a bench, it looks for
I
a
thought
bench to
you
load
did
us
that
at,
to
but
activate
there's
like an
a
infinite
problem.
pogo.
Our active
I've
room
seen
doesn't
Unalike
have a
do that
bench,
before.
so the game then tries to load us to the tutorial room as a failsafe. However, this also has a problem since we're still in a room dupe, and while we are loaded into the tutorial room, the room we were
Welcome
just
in.
in is now our active room.
Jeremiah.
And it just so happens that where we get loaded in the tutorial
This
room
is what
overlaps
happens
with the
in all
thorn patch in
glitches.
the active room.
Yeah,
so
all
we
glitch
load in
speedrun.
just to die. Fortunately,
I
there's
don't know
another
if all of
built-in
them.
failsafe for this situation, where the game looks at where your
I'm not
hazard
even sure if
respawn
this is the
if you die
fastest.
in a hazard. So instead of endlessly getting spawned
usually don't
into
look
the
at
duped
glitch
hazard,
runs,
it looks at the most recent
so I know nothing
transition we
about 'em.
exited from and spawns us there, which in this case is the room we unlocked the bench in. It's absolutely insane that Team Cherry coded in logic for all of these situations that realistically should never happen. And it's even more crazy that they're routed into the speedrun. But because of this, we now have the room stacked in a very particular way, and it's time to break this ordinary bench by going down one room.
I got your pizza. Hut!
So
Should
how?
order pizza every game.
Important because it has the pond catcher enemy, and what we're going to do is manipulate her AI so she gets stuck under this small wharf, which is very hard to do since she can't touch water or she dies.
What?
But if you get her there, then die to her attack, something very special happens. When you spawn on a bench, you're put into a temporary state called no-clip, where you're invincible for a few
No-clip.
seconds and can walk through walls. Normally, this doesn't do anything, since the state ends as the respawn animation plays out. But, because we're in a room dupe, the room we were just in becomes the active room, so the pond catcher spawns into the room with us.
Oh my god.
Now, the pond catcher has a 4-second windup between attacks, and part of the earlier setup was to keep her in her attack animation when we died.
I got
Because when we
Balatro on
respawn,
Xbox
she'll hit
because
us
it's
while
free
the
on
no-clip
Xbox
is still
Game
active,
Pass.
causing
How
it to
is
be
it? That
permanently
one's been
applied
recommended
to
to me.
us.
It's like a card
While
game?
under the effects of no-clip, there are a ton of things that happen.
Question mark?
Most importantly, you no longer have collision with walls and can fly by jumping. But you
Cheating.
can't descend without doing a downward attack, so navigation is a bit tricky. However, if there's a door that's blocked, it's now easy to get behind since you can fly through whatever's blocking it, further expanding the navigational possibilities while room duping. There is one major restriction, however. Because of how upward transitions work, the game expects you to become grounded as part of the animation when going through them. But since you're in no-clip, you never get re-grounded, so the load never completes, resulting in a hard lock. This doesn't happen with a bottom load, but since on the other side of a bottom load is a top load, it is possible you touch the top load and hard lock on the other side. And for these reasons, you're mostly limited to left and right transitions while no-clipping. Incredibly, there's still a route that only uses left and right transitions to get you to the end of the game while room duping. And speaking of duping, once you get to the Citadel, there's a special room that needs to be accessed. Certain rooms with cutscenes will be interpreted by the game as being 2 rooms. And when you enter one of these rooms while room duping, the stack of rooms increases by 1. This means that great care needs to be taken when executing the route, as recovering from entering a wrong room is nearly impossible with a larger stack. But with careful routing, you'll eventually have 2 very special rooms in the stack. One
I
of these
see.
rooms spawns the boss when you land on the challenge point, and since we loaded in from below the challenge point, we need to slow our no-clip speed by pausing, which decreases our speed by half every time we pause, slowing us just enough that we can activate the challenge point and summon the boss. Now, at this point,
Is this
we have
run
virtually
all
no
RNG?
upgrades, deal next to no damage, and
No.
have no equipable objects to make this fight
I don't
easy.
think it's RNG.
So, I guess it's a good thing that the other room we duped has 6 spinning saws that are hostile to enemies. With no clip still active, all
I don't know
that's
if any
needed
of
is
it's
to move to
RNG.
one side so the boss tries to follow you, where she then takes damage until she dies.
What's the point?
So I guess not only is this a speedrun of Silksong in under 10 minutes, it's also technically a pacifist run, as not a single enemy was harmed by Hornet's sword at any point. Huge thanks to Mimi for help with this video, be sure to check her out at the links below, and the algorithm thinks you'll like the video on screen. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next year on a brand new season of Abysssoft Z.
Annie? Amy?
Silksong tier list.
Dude, 38 minutes of that? You want that
The
one?
first video.
Oh my god, dude. We're not watching the whole thing. We're gonna watch it while I go get a drink or something.
Hollow Knight Silksong is the highly anticipated sequel to the original hit game Hollow Knight.
2x
has
speed.
really just struck the gaming community in a really fun way, and it's just a great game. However,
ID
it is
rather Alex
a
do the tier
Metroidvania
list lol.
Souls-like game, and Souls-like games are known for being notoriously
Yeah.
difficult,
Skip to the
especially
end.
when it comes to the
I'm
bosses.
gonna do my own
In the
tier
Dark
list.
Answers, just because I had that strategy, you can use the same strategy where you just sit in the bottom right corner and jump every time they come near you, and then just spam them down. The tornado attack was really fun, and that was a pain to deal with. I'm gonna go low B tier for these guys. Yeah, low B tier sounds right. Ooh, we're getting down to it. We're getting down to it. Final 6, Crust King Khan. This was interesting because his gauntlet, like the Coral Tower, was the hardest place ever. I hate it. I hate the Coral Tower. It took me so
You
long
should
to
do
get through
our
it.
own one.
Ugh.
Throw it into the
Yeah,
suggestions.
not much to note with this guy.
Second
Kinda-
Sentinel in
The
C
best
is
strategy
a
for all these kind
crime.
of memory bosses
Yeah.
is tool spamming, except for Star Singer Carmen later.
Their chat's probably really stupid
Tool spamming
too.
really helps, especially with this guy, because within these dream memories, every time you die, you just wake up basically from the dream. Like it's not actually real; it's just a memory. So you don't lose your tools.
I don't
when you
like
die. So you
him.
don't have to respawn.
I don't like
on
his
those
chat.
skeletons.
I don't
So
like his
tool
tier
spamming,
list.
like the Architect
Probably
Crest, works
smells
really well against
bad.
this guy. So, especially with his whole gauntlet, I had Architect Crest when I got to him, so then I just used all the tools I had, and he just went down pretty quickly. His attacks aren't too bad to dodge. They speed up towards the end, but again, not very bad. Big thing you want to look out for is just not running into him while you're dodging his attacks. I'm gonna go B tier. Yeah, B tier. All right. Seth was fun. Seth
Sentinel
again,
gets
kinda has a watch
higher
the edge feel
because
where it's
the
just you
puzzles
against this
are
guy.
fun to
It kind
get
of dual
to.
feel to it. He was really fun. He was tough, but he was fun. I'm gonna go low, probably low A tier with him, just because he was. Yeah, he's like throwing his shield around, jumping all over the place. You have to like just try to get away to heal. Yeah, it's just a really fun fight. Team Cherry did a really good job at this
They
one.
are friend coded.
Nyleth would be a B tier. Sorry. It was a really fun fight, really neat idea where you have to kind of stay in the air while fighting her. Really fun, really cool attacks to dodge, but in the end, it's not too difficult as long as you're good at air combat. Yeah, really fun though. All right, here we go. Scar Singer Carnelia, first S tier. This boss is hard. Like, she has 3 entire phases. She's dancing around. She's smashing you to bits with her little blade thingies. She has a giant hitbox. She will like easily just snipe you out of the air while you're trying to get a heal off. Man, so much about this boss just makes it really difficult. Her gauntlet beforehand does not help because usually against those 2 big guys you take like at least a hit. So you have to try to get into her. So getting into her with full health is pretty tough to do. But just like the whole feel of the fight feels fun. Like the soundtrack for this fight is amazing. It's so fun. You have her singing, and she's the one singing the whole song. So it's like whoa. It's just a really fun fight, but it's really hard at the same time. Especially towards her later phases, she goes to town on you. It's a pain. Alright,
Last
here we go. The final
judge
boss
over
of
my
Act 2,
goat
Grandmother
Trabio.
Silk. Grandmother Silk is interesting because normally, I think I heard that.
Yeah,
normally
there's
she's not
something
that bad,
wrong
right?
with them.
She's just kind of like a toned down version of the Radiance from the first game, and
Anyways.
you just dodge her attacks, but they're pretty easy to read, and it's not too
Here's
bad to deal with.
some asparagus
you can do a lot of damage
drink
pretty quick, especially with the Wander's Crest, because you can just jump
that I got in Taiwan that I probably shouldn't have been
Phantom
able to
not
get
in
to.
AS tier.
Here you guys go, some
The
asparagus
interesting
drink.
thing about her
Nom,
is that I'm
nom,
pretty sure I
nom,
heard
nom,
somewhere
nom, nom.
that she couldn't be quite as difficult as Team Cherry wanted because of a
The
challenge that you
forbidden
can do,
drink.
which is what that picture is. It's called it's one of the endings you can get for the game, and
Tastes
essentially what you
pretty
do
good.
is you have
Makes
to go
your
beat her
pee
while you're
smell
cursed.
bad, though.
While you're cursed, you can't use any of your tools, any of your crests, and you can't heal. So you have to just show up as a basic point and beat her somehow without healing. That's where she actually gets tough. Just normal her, I would say normal her would be like low B tier.
No,
But
we're out of meat.
Twisted Child.
We're
that-
so
that
out of
ending
meat.
where you're cursed.
Oh,
I would say that
hello,
brings up to
Russian
But
name.
still is
honestly.
good.
And since that's the picture, I'm gonna go, okay, Twisted Child. Yeah, her by herself is
come
probably
in?
low C tier. She's not really that bad. Final
Caballero.
boss of the game, Lost Lace.
Finn.
And S tier, easily S
Your
tier.
name got cut off.
This boss is a pain. I saw this boss for the first time.
Julian
on YouTube,
Albino,
and I
welcome
was
in.
like, oh no, this boss is like has the
Right
potential
up
to be like
crest meat.
top hardest bosses of all time. It's like, what am I doing?
Welcome
with
in
this?
the night.
It's terrifying. Yeah, then I worked my way up to beat her to actually fight her, and it was like, oh my gosh, she kills you so fast.
All right,
It's like,
let's
oh my
start a
goodness, what's
speed
happening?
run. I don't
Once
like
you learn
this
her,
dude's
she's not too
list.
bad.
Let's
Also,
get out of
there's
here.
just so much going on towards her later phase.
Let's get out of here. Let me get all my stuff set up.
L list.
L list, yeah. Welcome in, Coastal, the big cheese. We're out of fresh meat. Sorry. No fresh meat. You gotta come early if you want fresh meat. What do we got? I gotta turn off Spotify because